Here is problem number one. I'm going to show you how to do it. So I already have the 2D part of it drafted. Everything is, I was able to use the intro CAD project and I scaled it up. So the first thing we need to do with this is we need to make the top line and in this arc, we need to make this as one object. So what we're going to do is we need to select both items, okay, and then we need to come up here to modify and compose. And what we did was we turned it into one object, the two objects in one, and now it's a polyline, as you can see over here. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to make sure, again, before we extrude something, we want to make sure it has a fill. And as we can tell, it looks like this guy has a fill. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to model and extrude. And if we look on the drawing, I see that this piece needs to be 3 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on extrusion, and I'm going to change that to 3 inches. Click OK. Now the fill goes away, it looks like, but it's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and look in right isometric view, and it looks, there we have our object. Don't worry that these aren't lined up. We'll get to that in a little bit. So here I'm going to go back to top plan view. Okay, and the first thing I want to do is it looks like these guys right here need to be drilled all the way through. It looks like the hole goes from the top to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this circle, and I'm going to extrude the circle till it makes, I would say, what I call it is a drill bit. Okay, we're going to drill out that hole, and I need to extrude this. Now the important thing to remember in Vectorworks is if you want to subtract and make that hole appear, this circle needs to be above and below this main object. So I'm going to show you. So this object is 3 inches tall. So I'm going to make this circle, I'm going to extrude that to 5 inches. So I'm going to come up here to model, extrude. You can also hit Control or Command E. I'm going to make this guy 5 inches. So now, from the looks of it, it doesn't look like we did anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change to front view. Come up here, front, and now we can see let's zoom in here. You can see that now this guy has been extruded. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select him, and then I'm going to hold down the shift key and the bottom arrow, and I'm just going to nudge it down till it doesn't have to be exact, but there's some sticking out the top, there's some sticking out the bottom. I'm going to come back to top plan, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of our friends from intro, and I'm going to use mirror. I'm going to get rid of this guy. I'm going to mirror him over. So now we have, if we go to front, now we have both guys sitting there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to when I subtract things, I usually like to do it in isometric so I can see that it's happening. So what I'm going to do first is I want to subtract. I want to make a hole. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to subtract the piece you're going to cut and the cutter. So I will pretend this tube is the drill bit, and this is our object. So I have both of those selected. Then I'm going to come up here to model and subtract solids. And now what it's asking us is, okay, select object. What object are we taking from? And so we're taking from this, and it's highlighted. And you see I can go back and forth. So we want this. So I'm going to click OK. And voila, there is our hole cut. So we're going to do the same thing over here. And I'm going to do the same thing. Model, subtract solids. Need to change that to this guy. Okay. And there we have our two holes cut through the object. So I'm going to come back to top plan view again. Save it quick. And now let's see. Now we're going to make, the other day I mentioned this kind of looked like roly-poly-oly. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make his nose. So I'm going to add this guy right here. I'm going to select him, and let's see. If we look on the drawing, it looks like Roly's nose is about, well, not about, is exactly 4.5 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude him, model, extrude, 4.5 inches, enter. Now what I can do is I can come to the front view again, or side view. Now I need to move him 3 inches. So one thing I could do is I could grab him, and again I want to keep him right in that plane, so I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to raise him up above. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, I'm going to lower him right down so he snaps right to the top. That's one way to do it. You control out. Another way to do it is to modify, move 3D. So I want to move in the Z. The Z is up and down, so I'm going to go 3 inches, and there he puts it right there. So now we have our nose done. Come back to our top view. Now let's do his mouth, and let's see, Roly-Poly-Oly's mouth is 2.25 inches. So another way to get extrude is to hit Control or Command E, and I want his mouth to be 2.25 inches. Okay, come back to front view, and now I'm going to move 3D. I'm going to change that to 3 inches again while it's there. So now we have our object. And now I'm going to come over here to right isometric, and let's look at it. Let's save that. Let's look at it in the right side view, and it looks almost like you're drawing. So that right there is how to draw problem 1. Thanks, and we'll see you for problem 2.